Hey guys, and welcome back to Runic Survivor, which is another arena roguelike. I've been pretty into these recently once again, and this one you have a very unique and interesting spell system. So again, it's one of these games where you survive through a lot of waves of enemies, and it's much like Vampire Survivors. There have been a lot of these type of games, but this one has a pretty cool spell system where you spend the game sort of picking different runes to create custom spells. You have one rune which goes into each sort of set of slots, and that rune defines what type of spell it's going to be. There's like 4 of them. You know, one is called Bolt, it's simply a projectile. One is called Aura, it's sort of a circle around you, kind of like Garlic from Vampire Survivors. One is called Ghost, and it's little ghosts that like fly, or Summon, sorry, it's little ghosts that like fly out. And then the other one's called Blast, and it's sort of like bombs that explode, explosions. And the other 4 runes that you put in there are basically to modify the spell to customize it to your own taste. And then, of course, one of those other 4 slots may have something in there, you know, called a rune that links it and allows you to link it to another spell that happens on killing another monster. So basically, you can have other spells and additional effects in those spells that are linked to, you know, sort of like comboed to getting kills with your main spell. And so that ends up with some pretty wild and unique combinations of things, especially since you're modifying the initial spells to your particular liking. And then on top of that, you can also upgrade the runes to gain additional abilities. So as you can see, there's a lot of layers of customization to this game that are pretty neat. And in this particular one, I was starting to struggle here a little bit, but it was more successful in my previous runs. There are a lot of builds you can do in this game that just aren't that good. As you can see here, I was doing summon, link to another summon, and then I had the remaining slots on the bottom just filled out with other things. I'm still not 1000% sure how the bottom runes, because you can see there's another row down there because there's a right click. You can have a left click spell, you can also have a right click spell, and each one of those can be linked to, I think, like 3 other spells, and then sometimes you can even have spells linked below that as well. If you upgrade the fire rune, one of the upgrades will allow you to link on, I think, either burn or kill with that one. And then I've also gotten the same result with one of the XP upgrades. That one also will do a link on hit with like 20% chance to activate. So you can link a ton of spells together. It's quite crazy and wild. My problem here, as you can see, was that I was getting to this point where I just didn't seem to have quite enough DPS. I found in this game, more than any other roguelike, arena roguelike I've played, if you pick the wrong stuff, the monsters will start to scale past you really, really quick, and it becomes kind of a hopeless situation. And the worst part about that is the fact that you can kind of keep dodging them for quite a long time. So you're kind of just there dodging them, and you literally can't kill them. Like, it often scales to that point unless you pick your stuff very carefully. So sometimes that will result in me actually like stopping. And you can see right here, I'm shuffling all my stuff around, trying to figure out like how I can make this a little more effective to keep my run going. Because sometimes just shifting around some runes can have a pretty dramatic effect on how the build is performing. So as you can see there, the swords, they add additional damage. And then those little things that look like a percent symbol, those are splits, which mean that it will basically create additional projectiles. If it's a projectile sort of thing, or with like explosions, it'll create additional explosions, and for each one of those you lose 10% damage, but you get an additional projectile or explosion, which can sometimes be very useful since it can do damage sort of farther away, increases the radius of the overall effect. And then For other effects like Aura, which is sort of an AoE effect, you can add effects to it like fire or ice, which will burn or slow down enemies, and that can be a very interesting way to customize things as well. And then, like I said, all of these runes, including the runes that are the initial spell, can all be upgraded at least once, I think. Every single type of rune, to my knowledge. I haven't tried all of them, but I've tried most of the initial spells, and you can get some pretty interesting stuff. And it starts giving you options, like you can either make, like for the explosion one, blast, you can make it smaller with more damage, or you can make it a really massive explosion in terms of area with less damage. It's quite interesting. But as you can see here, I was focusing on trying to have as many runes involved as possible, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a big pivot here, so I ended up going for blast instead of summon at this point. And I think that ended up being an okay move. I was getting some good AoE, a little bit out of the blast right there, but barely avoiding these bats, man. These things were closing in on me hard. And I was right up against the wall right here. I could go for summon and then try to upgrade, but for some reason I wasn't thinking about that and just wanted to put it in both slots. I've had trouble using both slots, like the left and right mouse buttons. What I found is it's a lot easier to just spam the left mouse button. If you spam both of them, it will decrease your mana to nothing really, really quickly. So I'm still kind of figuring that one out. I'd also like to do a video where I link more spells together. In this one, I didn't get very many linked together, but I've had other runs where I've linked like 6 spells together. You may not think that's possible, like it just on one mouse button, but it is if you get fire upgraded and like XP upgraded. You can link a spell to both of those on top of the initial like 4 linked ones you can have, like 3 to the main one. So it gets extremely wild. So I'll have to make some stuff showing off that as well. I'm not really sure which of these games actually people are going to want to see, or, you know, I can get my foot in the door with, but we're going to see how it goes. As you can see right here, I tried to go to the left right there, and I just misjudged it. If I'd gone to the right, I would have survived. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, and I'll see you in the next video.